Welcome to Speak Out. I'm Sandy Galef, a member of the New York State Assembly representing parts of northern Westchester and parts of Putnam County. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, the healthcare exchanges that have been developed as a result of the Affordable Health Care Act in Washington, sometimes considered Obamacare. And we are going to be discussing all the component parts here in New York State, where we have about 2.8 million New Yorkers who don't have health care. So we're dealing with that as a critical issue here in our state. And I have as one of my guests, John Ravitz, who is an Executive Vice President and COO of the Business Council of Westchester. And John, you were also my colleague in the New York State Assembly back a while ago. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's great. And Jamie Schutzer, who is President-elect of the New York State Association of Health Underwriters. Welcome, Jamie. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
And so the world is upside down, our country's upside down, and trying to figure out what we're doing and where we're going. And the Business Council has taken on a very important role. The Business Council of Westchester, I don't know whether that's also the Business Council of the State of New York or not. No, just the Westchester. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I've heard a number of your discussions about the whole affordable health care and, what as a business council you're doing to help the business community, but I think it's kind of gone beyond just the business
Well, it has,
community.
and it really started, Sandy, about a year and a half ago when Marsha Gordon, our president, CEO, and I started to think about what the real world was going to look like with the Affordable Care Act. And we realized that we had an obligation to our members to give them as much education about this new law as possible. So it really started right after the Supreme Court upheld the majority of the Affordable Care Act, and we held our first forum in which we were able to bring some legal scholars in to say, here's what the law now says, and which is going to be the law of the land. And then about 4 months later, we had our first healthcare forum because, as you know, Governor Cuomo, via an executive order, had stated that New York was going to create its own exchange, and New York is one of only 14 states that has really put their own exchange together. So we brought in the architects who the governor had tapped to say, I want you to build this system. And this was a year before we went live with open enrollment, but we thought it was important for businesses in Westchester to begin to understand exactly what, again, the world was going to look like in terms of this new healthcare exchange. And then starting in the spring, we were part of a statewide network through the Community Service Society of New York to go out and start educating businesses, again, about the Affordable Care Act, what mandates were going to be on the books for employers that they needed to know about, what tax credits would be available for employers who gave health insurance or helped pay for health insurance for their employees, and begin to talk about some of the dates, like October 1st being the first date of open enrollment, that people needed to really begin to feel comfortable about and get as much understanding as possible. But you said the world's upside down. I say we're on a roller coaster.
Right.
Since October 1st, we've all heard about what's happened with the federal website, but we have to deal with our own New York State Health Exchange website, which I think is in a little better shape. But they had growing pains as well. So we're all in this together in terms of learning a new system and trying to get out that information to our members as quickly as possible.
Right, and it's not easy, Jamie. So how do you deal with this whole issue through your organization?
Well, we are the New York State Association of Health Underwriters, which is a state chapter of the National Association of Health Underwriters, which is primarily made up of insurance agents and brokers. And we've been spending the better part of the last 3.5 years preparing for this time. And the exchange and the marketplace is actually just one of the components of what we discuss with our clients. Because obviously, come January 1st, they want to evaluate all their options, one being a new option of the New York State of Health, which is the official name of the marketplace. So what we're doing is speaking with our clients, advising them of what is available to them, both on and off the marketplace, and presenting options that will help them make the best decision for them, their employees.
Now, are your clients the business community or private individuals, families?
Our clients are businesses, small to mid-sized businesses, large businesses as well. An interesting fact about New York is that currently under the current environment, there's only about 20,000 individual health insurance policies that have been issued in the state. So with the opening of the marketplace and the individual marketplace for that matter, the state is expecting roughly about 600,000 members in 2016. So, between now and then, we might be more involved in working with individuals because, again, that's part of our job. But primarily today, what we're focusing on is businesses.
Right. Now, we're taping this after October 1st, but we're November 1st as this taping goes. So I think people should maybe understand that when we give out numbers or whatever else. What did you see, John, on October 1st? And have a lot of, a number of people been able to sign up? What are the?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we saw prior to October 1st was denial. I just don't think people thought this was going to happen. I think people saw the headlines and saw that Congress wanted to repeal what was going to happen with a presidential election if there was a new president. Were they going to scrap it?
Right.
So we had to chip away at denial, and we've been to let people know, yes, this is going to be the law of the land come January 1st, 2014. We began getting calls as soon as the New York State of Health website went up. On October 1st, we got 68 calls. And we've been averaging since then about 25 calls a day for people.
Now, is this because you are identified as, if somebody went up on a website, would they find you up there as one of the places that
Yes,
have Navigator?
On the New York State of Health website, when there is obviously a link that you click on for a Navigator, and then you can choose which county you live in. And I guess because we begin with a B, we're one of the first people that they see. So whether you're an individual or a business, they're giving us a call. What we've tried to give people an understanding about is that it's a process. When people call us, we want to make sure that they talk to our navigator and do an initial intake over the phone. He can begin to find out what they're looking for. Is it just for that individual? Is it for that individual's family? Sometimes we'll have a mom or a dad calling, not for them, but for their spouse or for their children who they want to help enroll. And we need to let them know what documentation they need to come when they sit down with our navigator to bring. Because the role of the navigator literally is to sit as close as you and I are sitting in front of a computer and go onto that website. There is a built-in calculator on the website that we put in, and everything is done in a confidential manner, obviously. The individual or the family's financial information, and then they are given the opportunity to see the different metal, and that's what they're called, their metal plans that are available, and make their final determination.
So do you think, do you have any idea whether the majority of people are doing it through a navigator or just going up on the website themselves and
Well, the
making
calls
a
that we're
decision?
getting is people who've tried, a lot of people either who have tried and just have had no success, or have been frustrated because they've gotten halfway through the system, the process, and then something happens. Or there are some people who just are not computer savvy, or and don't even own a laptop. So we've heard more of that. I think people are coming to a navigator now to say, look, we want to be able to do this, and we want to make sure though that we have done it correctly, because it's such a huge sea change. But there is a big difference between a navigator and a broker, and maybe we can talk about that.
All right, tell
later.
us, what is a broker? You're in the broker field.
Right. Personally, I've been in the business for 20 years, and what we're experiencing now in my lifetime and in my professional career is the biggest amount of changes that I've ever seen. So what we do is, obviously on an annual basis, is sit down with our clients and review what their options are, help them strategize and identify their goals and help them meet those goals. But on top of that, there are a lot of other compliance issues related to the Affordable Care Act and other laws that employers need to be aware of, certain notices that need to go out when it comes to the employer mandate and penalties. So what we do is we advise our clients of those compliance issues, make sure they're aware of them, help with the planning, and make sure that they're following the law and avoiding any penalties on the back end. So our role goes beyond just helping identify health plans, getting them enrolled. We meet with employees, we help them understand the plan, We answer any confidential questions. And generally, what we want to do is make sure that our clients are happy, that they feel good about what they're doing for their business, what they're doing for their employees, that it's communicated effectively. On the back end, if there are ever any types of issues, we're an advocate. We don't work for the insurance companies. We're independent. Therefore, when we can step in, we know how to get around some of the red tape and get to the core of issues and assist our clients and their employees. Make sure that they're having a good experience.
So let's talk about the businesses. They're different size businesses. So the law goes from one person in a firm or a business up to 50, right? And then there's a cutoff there, and then it goes 50 and above, and so on.
But that 50, that number is going to change too in 2016. That's
Right.
going to go up to 100.
Right.
So one of the things that we've tried to do in our healthcare presentations, just to educate again businesses about the Affordable Care Act, is to know about again what those numbers are. 1 to 50, but 50 becomes 100 in 2016. What constitutes a full-time employee compared to a seasonal employee. I mean, those are all.
So you're right. You could be a business that has. You think you have 30 employees. I think I saw one of your some information that you had. But then they have a whole bunch of part-time employees.
Right.
And then you add up the number of part-time employees or the hours or whatever else, and they can become full-time equivalents or.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
I mean, and there is a formula that we really want to give businesses so that they know where they start from in terms of it's a 30-hour work week, and you start from there. But I think again, we've had some businesses who have come to some of our presentations who run summer camps. Where they have, maybe 10 full-time employees, but
Right.
then between
Lots of counselors
between May and
Right.
August, that goes up to 75 to 100.
Right.
And really, again, what they are responsible for. But I think it also goes back to the fact that most employers do want to try to help their employees. And by offering to give them insurance, it certainly boosts morale. It shows an employee that an employer actually does care about how they and their family are doing. It hopefully helps in retention, to keep employees there, and also in recruitment. So it's been nice to hear as we've gone around Westchester County some of the small businesses who, it could be a stretch for them, but they do want to try to help their employees as long as it's not, again, going to blow their budgets up.
Right. So they have to hope, and I don't know whether you have the answer to this or not yet, but whatever the insurances that they decide to get might be less expensive than they might have had before, or we don't know that yet, or are you seeing anything coming along? Because I think I did hear that some of our exchanges, some of the companies have come in better than others. I mean, there's a whole array of the type of services that you can get with health insurance. So,
I'll break it down into two different segments. One is the individuals. As I mentioned before, there's about 20,000 currently individual policies issued in the state of New York. So at the size of our state, to only have 20,000 individual policies is, and the biggest reason is
We're
being
slow,
the cost.
right.
The cost is for individual policy. Today, downstate is $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month for one individual for an HMO type plan. They've been so costly. So with the creation of the individual exchange, those prices have come down dramatically. And then in addition to that, depending on where you fall within the federal poverty level, you could also qualify for premium tax credits as well. So we are certainly seeing rates come down in the individual market. On the small group side, we are seeing rates creeping up because all the plans need to cover with these essential health benefits. So there's some new benefits that carriers are mandated to cover.
So a little bit, some more requirements than they'd had before, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, John had mentioned before about these metal levels. So you'll hear a lot in the individual and the small group market: platinum, gold, silver, bronze. So every plan design in the individual and small group market has to fall into one of those categories, which is defined by an actuarial value. So every plan has to kind of be tweaked to go into one of these metal levels. So some of them are getting lower copays, which are going to increase rates a little bit more. Some are going with higher copays, which will decrease.
So can a company offer the minimal? Basically across the board, all companies could really offer the minimal, or are they required to have a higher standard in the metals?
Well, on the small group too, one thing to keep in mind, and 2 to 50, we'll talk about full-time equivalent, are not required to offer health insurance. Although we see an overwhelming amount of businesses that do, because as John mentioned before, they feel it's the right thing to do. But should they not, they wouldn't be penalized. But on the small group, yes, you can offer a bronze level plan, which is the lowest of the 4 metal levels. But what makes the marketplace different than how today a business would purchase health insurance is that you can offer a particular carrier and offer all their plans. So in all the metal levels, so a platinum,
so people
gold,
can
silver, and
choose,
bronze, right?
And they could choose within their employment environment which one.
Exactly. And how you work that is what they call a defined contribution. So the employer could say, okay, we're going to use the bronze plan as our base plan, and I'm going to pay X amount of dollars of that, or X amount of percentage towards that, and then the employee then can go in and decide, well, you know what, that bronze plan has a very high deductible, I'm using services a little bit more often, I might prefer to be in a gold plan. And they use the defined contribution that the employer gives them to buy a gold plan. So obviously they would have to pay additional money, but rather than kind of being cornered into, this is your plan, take it or leave it, now the concept behind the marketplace is really employee choice.
But with choice comes some responsibility too. I mean, one of the things that we're urging people to call if they, in between the time that they come to meet with our navigator, is for them, if they can, get onto the New York State of Health website, is to begin to look at the different options and the different plans, so that they can have a better sense of what's available. And again, if you're an individual or if you have a family, you're going to want to know, again, is your pediatrician going to be covering this? If you have dental, and a lot of the names that we're familiar talking about in the industry.
So there would be names of physicians?
No,
not on that.
No,
right,
not on
right.
that, but you want to do some homework, and you want to be able to go back to your, we're suggesting and recommending, and again, I guess I'm sounding more like a broker more and more every day, because we will say, you should call your pediatrician, or you should call, if you have a special cardiologist, to see what they're going to be doing and what the plans.
Do they all know at this point what they're going to be doing? The medical community. I kind of got a letter from the medical society that seemed to be not quite sure. The doctors are all not quite sure of what's happening.
That's a very interesting question. A question actually we're dealing with today, because a lot of the insurance companies are developing new networks that are being affiliated with the marketplace and off the marketplace for that matter, and there are new names that are coming up of these networks, and it's we're trying to get to the bottom of how those are being rolled out to the provider community. Is it being rolled out as an addendum to a current contract, or are they recontracting? So John's advice is very good in that definitely want to contact your provider, your doctor, and find out if they are taking this new network. And again, I think there's going to be a learning curve with that as well.
This seems a little bit like when HMOs started, and I don't know when health maintenance organizations started, but it was the same question with the physicians. Were you in these certain plans and so on that we went through? So could be a little bit of this. So who have you found is applying right now through your navigator at this moment?
At this moment, we're getting mostly individuals, and we're getting some. We are getting folks who again are either calling because they want to help themselves, or if they want to get their child on board, because under the new law now you can keep your child up to age 26. So that's a sea change. So we've had a lot of parents call, say, my son's got part-time work, or he's doing this,
Right,
but
or no
he's
work, or
right, but
whatever.
he's never had health
Right.
insurance, and now I say they want to seize this
Right.
opportunity to try to get the son or daughter health insurance. So we're seeing that. We're seeing some people who, again, who have used emergency rooms as their primary care doctors for years, and but a lot of them are eligible for Medicaid, so that's another component that they still are going to be able to enroll, but it's going to be through a different.
Had we thought about that? I really hadn't, as we were dealing with that issue, I hadn't really thought about the number of people that we've never gotten onto Medicaid that really could have been on Medicaid for years instead of, so hospitals would have been reimbursed and everything else.
Well, we were talking about this before we went on air. I think that's going to be one of the bigger numbers that in New York, I'm going to be curious to see what those numbers look like. But I remember when we passed Child Health Plus in the legislature, Child Health Plus was really set up so that, again, families could avoid just using the emergency room as their primary care doctors. And the problem was that there was no trail of care, because they'd see one emergency room doctor on a Friday night, they'd see another doctor on a Saturday night, they might go to different emergency rooms. The hope is now that you're going to have that continuation of care once you've picked the plan that you think makes the most sense.
Yeah, which is such a problem. Are people talking at all about penalties if they don't do anything, or that hasn't gotten to this point yet because they're still trying to figure out where they're going to go?
Well, again, for the small businesses right now, the penalty is pretty small. It's for the individual. Let's go for the individual. For the individual, it's the first year is $95, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. Are people and again, I think we can talk about it because it's true. I mean, to make this a successful program in New York State, we're going to need these young invincibles.
Right. Why do we need these young invincibles?
We need these young invincibles who are between the ages of 25 and 35, who probably, again, have never thought about having to take money out of their paycheck to pay for health insurance because they've never had to go to an emergency room. Or they feel like, they're invincible. And they're never going to get sick.
People,
Or they go to the gym.
So to speak.
They go to the gym 3 days a week and they pay a membership fee, and they think that is part of their health care. Which it actually is until they get in an accident or something else, something tragic happens. So again, we're going to need to get people to focus on that, and I think that jury's still out. I think granted we're only a month into this system, but a year from now, I think we'll be able to look at some statistics to see how many people in that young invincible category have actually taken the time to to enroll and see it as a long-term investment in their future.
Yes. Jamie, we were talking before about 2016, I think, having it all kind of, so we're just slowly, month by month by month, I guess, kind of creeping along into this whole plan.
Right. We've been speaking with our clients for the last few months, and even the days and weeks prior to October 1st, and without having a crystal ball and foreseeing the issues that these websites were going to have, and New York obviously being a state-run marketplace is faring much better than the federal government. So a lot of the news media you read about healthcare.gov, well, New Yorkers aren't going to healthcare.gov. They're going to the New York State of Health website. But that we were trying to prepare people that October 1st wasn't D-Day, wasn't the day that everyone had to sign up.
But they all went on the computers, didn't they?
They all did, including a lot of my colleagues, and because we were interested as well to get access, because we didn't see a demo of the system prior to October 1st. So if we're going to be talking to our clients about this, and we felt, so, I think a lot of people
They should have had a different, did they not have a different computer site for you to go on?
No.
Maybe that would have been.
One.
So, I mean, think of suggestions, some of the things, I guess we'll figure that out after a year, what needed to be changed, and some things may be extended as we're talking today, just to get everybody on. I don't think anybody anticipated all the glitches with the computers and so on, but are there certain things that you think that might be changed as we go forward, or we don't know yet?
I think it's still pretty early to address all those. Like John had mentioned, I mean, the success of the program isn't going to be a website. I mean, the website is the portal to get to the end, which is to get people who either can't afford insurance to get them affordable insurance, or those who have neglected to get insurance because they are these young invincibles, to get them signed up. So in my opinion, the website is really just the is the conduit, is the beginning of the process. I mean, what really is going to be the true test of the success of the Affordable Care Act is who signs up. And again, I don't think you can look at the month of October of 2013 as the decision of what the future is going to look like. So I think it's going to be a process that's you're going to learn, but it's going to be more on the outreach, getting out to the communities, getting out to again, these young invincibles, and with this law and the marketplaces, there's some new insurance companies that are coming to the marketplace, and one in particular is clearly identifying itself to that young invincible market by doing a lot of advertising in social media.
Right.
And
is that one that was originally given approval by the state, or is that are we going to get new ones that come along?
This is a brand new
one.
There's a brand new. There's a couple of actually brand new ones. Well, 3 for if I'm counting correctly. But and there's one it's in particular is a co-op. So part of the Affordable Care Act allotted some money aside for loans to these co-ops, which are nonprofit. They, I believe, have to have their board of directors need to be a majority of the board of directors need to be made up by their members. So we have a co-op in New York that's operating, and then we have some other private insurance companies that have entered into the marketplace as of 2014. So, they're newcomers, and only time will tell to see how they do.
And I think one of the important things also, hopefully, that will work in New York State is that we have put into place some good checks and balances. I mean, the Department of Financial Services now is really going to be the mothership that is going to oversee, and there's going to be, the plans that are coming in. All the plans that had to come in and were eventually certified had to go through a process that the Department of Financial Services put into place, and those rates had to be approved. If there's going to be, and Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, if a company comes in and says, you know what, we're raising our rates X amount percent, they have to justify it through the Department of Financial Services, and also on the flip side, individuals who feel that their rates have gone up now have an ombudsman type process that they can go through. So again, that's
all very good.
It's important that people understand that there's, there are going to be opportunities for folks to get help if they need it once they've signed up. Once they've signed up, people aren't just going to say, we're done with you. There's a process.
Actually, you're going to be in this business for a while. Are you not?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's not going away.
Right.
And we need, now that we're in it, we need to make it work.
Right.
Those of us who've been in politics a long time, you can throw bombs all you want, but eventually, then that's all you're doing is you're just trying to cause chaos.
Well, we need to make it work. We need to get all those New Yorkers, almost 3 million New Yorkers, into some kind of health care. So I want to thank you both for coming, John and Jamie, very, very much. And I know that if there are any specific questions to you, we've put up on the website where people can contact you. And if anybody wants to give me a call about anything that's been said or where we go in the future, just give me a call at 914-941-1111. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening.